Hello everyone, sorry for the delay. I'm Tallulah Howarth and I'm a 18-year-old poet and somewhat of a singer-songwriter from near enough Manchester, I guess. I think it's a great cause that we're raising money for today, and I hope you enjoy. So I'm going to start off with a little song for you all. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you for that. Yeah, again, sorry about the lateness. I had a few technical issues. Do feel free to interact in the comments, because otherwise it might feel like I'm just talking to the void. Sorry to have to use my phone like a real millennial, but it is what it is. So the first poem that I'm going to do is called On Foot to the Town Centre, and I found myself writing it on one of my daily walks that we're allowed to do, with nothing else more to talk about than what I saw on the way into town. So yeah, eventful times in lockdown. Okay. I lift my head up to the sky, and there are clouds so bright they look like they have the brilliance of God trying to break out of them. Pair this with a cutting temperament. Pair this with an upturned microwave at the side of the road. Pair this with wild bluebells, with spring in my step. And there's a drunken trolley fallen over. The exterior council walls look like they've been finished with red bean paste, pebble dash. Humans and bollards look almost the same. Today, they are just another thing to avoid bumping into. So, thank you. It does somewhat feel apocalyptic at the moment. So I've got a poem that I actually wrote before lockdown, possibly last year, but it seems to be quite relevant. and it's called End of the World, Everything Must Go. It's the second to last day on Earth, and Mr. Monopoly's trying to make his last penny's worth. I mean, I get it. I really do. 95% off in Sparks is unheard of. But how are you going to eat all that quiche in 2 days? You don't even like quiche. On the bright side, it's the apocalypse special of Corrie tonight. We can have quiche for tea. Everything must go. I was paranoid walking home today. An asteroid. The moon was stalking me. Town criers prayed for me. I am afraid of me. I am afraid of me. Everything must go. It's 48 hours until our demise, but I feel like I have the world by the scruff of its neck now. I create myself in my own image. You realise these things when it's too late. The little boy who cried apocalypse. Kiss my apocalypse. Let me be a linguivore. Eat words up and chew them. Spit them out. Choose a new course of events. Can I change what has come before? It's the last day on Earth. If we're lucky, we'll be interplanetary immigrants, hitching a ride to Mars. Whilst our world is blown to smithereens, everything must go. CNN sent a drone in to interview the Martians, and one said passionately, which translates simply and clearly to go back to your own planet. Thank you. I'm just going to have a look. Oh, we have lots of people saying hello. Hello, hello, hello. Wherever you are tuning in from, whether it is Glossop or the Calder Valley, I appreciate it very much. And now I'm going to do a tiny reading from a book called Close to the Knives by David Winarovich, and he was an artist and activist in the AIDS movement, and yeah, he's a massive inspiration of mine. He's just an incredible person, and a lot of what he says is so relevant today that I just find myself returning to it. So it does specifically relate to how the government's handling the virus, like the incompetence of the handling of AIDS as well, and also more recently the George Floyd case, though obviously it's not an isolated case at all. So yeah, I'll just read a little excerpt from something that was written 30 years ago, but it could have been written today. It's so timeless. There is a tendency for people affected by this epidemic to police each other or prescribe what the most important gestures would be for dealing with this experience of loss. I resent that. At the same time, I worry that friends will slowly become professional pallbearers, waiting for each death of their lovers, friends and neighbours, and polishing their funeral speeches, perfecting their rituals of death, rather than a relatively simple ritual of life, such as screaming in the streets. I worry because of the urgency of the situation, because of seeing death coming in from the edges of abstraction, where those with the luxury of time have cast it. I imagine what it would be like if friends had a demonstration each time a lover or a friend or a stranger died of AIDS. I imagine what it would be like if each time a lover, friend or stranger died of this disease, their friends, lovers or neighbours would take the dead body and drive with it in a car 100 miles an hour to Washington, D.C., and blast through the gates of the White House and come to a screeching halt before the entrance and dump their lifeless form on the front steps. It would be comforting to see those friends, neighbours, lovers and strangers mark time and place and history in such a public way. So for me, returning to that it very much reminds me of how these riots at the moment are an expression of public grief. So yeah, it is a grim time, but I guess that we have to be grateful that people are still out there fighting for the right things. So I actually wrote a poem for David Winarovich in his name, because of his massive inspiration to me. If you do get a chance to read the book Close to the Knives, I would definitely recommend it. It's probably one of the best books I've ever read. So this is called Even Closer to the Knife. Sour spit from candied lips, you're a skinny boy in the thick of it, well acquainted with blood and the secrecy of desiring prohibited bodies. The pull and lurch of all the possibilities spread out in front of you like a glorious landscape, and you breathe it all in and out. In politics, East Village never had a choice. It was fury-fueled, cold-blooded survival. You had brains, the means to articulate, but no listening ears. And so your life was stolen, your dreams, no more than kids' limbs in the mouth of a rat. Thank you. And I'll go on to the next one, which is also sort of the similar message to what he was fighting for, and it's called When Will We Be Free? The students with their heads in books ask, when will we be free? And the children in the city blocks asks, when will I be free? The dreamers in their hometowns ask, when will I be free? The lovers who aren't allowed to love ask, when will I be free? The artists, the migrants, the ill and the old, the outsiders, outspoken, outraged and unknown, the workers, daydreamers, the hopeful believers, the activists, the broken, those that have awoken to all colours. Every nation is a means for celebration. Every corner of each spectrum deserves to be defended. They are praying, they are screaming, when will we be free? And the few, they sit up on their pedestal, gorging themselves on our freedom. I think it's time for another quick song. I really enjoyed the last performance, and I'm not claiming to be as talented as her guitar skills, but here we are anyway. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me so far. I'd love to lie to you, but I don't know if I could bring myself to. I wish I could talk to you, but I don't know where I start. I wish we Yeah, so I just got a bit distracted by a postman. Big up the postal service, of course. The next one is a favourite of mine to perform, and it's called Kitchen Sink Surrealism. He was a secret he kept from himself, his childhood stored in a box on the shelf, underneath piles of paperwork, and adolescent attempts at philosophy, drenched with contempt, like writing it down would make his brain less contempt, but instead he was just strewn in an island of documents, isolated from his own identity. His paper-thin excuses to himself, how he could justify wasting so much time, veins coursing with medication and regret, trying to find a remedy for a disease he didn't have yet. How he drank away the funerals and the birthdays and the grey areas in between, scrawled on one piece, I thought this was what it meant to be young. Memories, like lifetimes away, stale and softened by the decades they were left untouched. But now he sits and nurses them, realises he's grown up into the person he wished he'd never become. Nostalgia is initially warm, back to those days when his soul was reborn with a summer-kissed hopefulness of golden days and silver nights that wouldn't end. But on the underside of every silver lining there's a blade, a cold knife to the retrospective bliss that says your memory is reconstructive. Those days aren't as good as you remember them, and you can't keep living in the past just because your future has turned sour. He wishes he could turn back the hours and admire once more the crushed eggshell wallpaper and the water dispenser of the waiting room. He thinks all this as he stands in the smoking area, in his hospital gown, chewing bitterly on his last cigarette. Thanks very much. I've got a few more for you, and hope you are all enjoying so far and doing well. If you fancy checking out other stuff that I'm up to, my page is Tallulah Howarth Creative, so just go on there, and I will keep you updated. The next one I wrote was in response to a challenge that you had to keep a diary for a week and then respond to what you'd written. So this was something I did about a month ago, and it's called The Heron and the Ballerina. With it being the brightest moon of the year, we drank greenhouse tea and danced barefoot in the garden until we got to cold days have happened too. Unlucky with a three-leafed clover, quarrels with a newborn lover, sun doused in cloud cover. Chronology is boring. A heron flew across the pond with a Hong Kong dollar in its beak, glinting like lunar rays. I'm a botched trenchcoat beauty with the pointed feet of a ballerina, a flimsy tin of toffee cider, and a malleable sense of self, dancing under the moon, a Hong Kong dollar in the sky. Okie dokie. My next one is a bit more of a romantic one. So to all the people in love out there, this is for you. Isn't it wonderful? It's called Midnight Picnicking. From where we were sat, it seemed as if the moon was rolling down the hillside like a lopped off head. We drank molten intergalactica out of our travel mugs, burned the back of our throats before it struck me how much the moon reminded me of miles and miles of skin, like it would never end. That night, the planets were in some lusty hybrid, so the sky was convoluted and interflowing in a brewing pot of colour and light, haphazardly draped above us. And underneath the glowing, decapitated delusion, in order to save our souls, I took your hand, hoping it would glue the cosmos back together. Okie dokie, I'll just check that everything is going to plan. Yes, everyone can hear me. Brilliant, brilliant. So the next one I've got for you is called Squat. Vodka-headed, you caffeine spat into the sink, staggered down the darkened steps. Filter-lipped, you told tales of street fights, knifed-up arm held out like a medal. Fictive-kinned, you found a family in these strangers, homed yourself in the stale cinema room. Stomach pumped, you purged yourself of old lives. Snake skins shedded like wrapping paper. Heavy booted, you built yourself up into more of a person than you are, manhandled a new name out of your body. Funny how blood and love are the same colour. Okie dokie. I have got 2 more for you, so it looks like I'm going a bit under the time, speeding ahead, so I will find some more if I've got time left over. This one is one called Dying in the Living Room. There's a taste of irony. I'm dying in the living room. Fading photographs look at me with judgment. The clock is something I can't catch up to. The wilting plants taunt me with failure. The curtains smother me in their bloody hue. The lava lamp has settled now. The tissues tell me what to do. Hoarding is an exercise of my obsession. The mirror glass I look right through. I'm cringing at your TV lies. I'm choking on your carbon fumes. Oh, there's a taste of irony. I'm dying in the living room. Okie dokie. And then the final one I've got, I will possibly do something else, is called We Are Living and Dead, and it's a sonnet that I wrote for a competition last year. When underwater, you can hear white noise. I keep my head still to avoid whiplash. Faintly sing the anthem of broken boys. Heart and soul turn into fire and ash. Dragged to the resurrected church of smoke, where I can engage in divine prayer. Scrub both of my hands with poisoned oak. They are lacerated beyond repair. I can surround myself in velvet folds, or pretend that I am in a dreamscape. Ignore that the walls are covered in mould. Blindly limbo under the crime scene tape. When crazed by madness of humanity, come, dance in the face of agony. So that was the planned lot. I've still got 5 minutes, so if you want to hear any more, let me know and I will do so. Any more for any more requests? I don't know. Let me have a think of what I've got. Do I have time for some more? Yeah, I'll do one more maybe. I will do one that was published in an anthology last year, and it is called There's Something Wrong with the Tap is what I was thinking. So it was posted in an anthology to do with Young Identity, which is a Manchester collective who do some really great stuff, so definitely check them out as well. Okay, there is something wrong with the tap. I gripped the handle, twisting it clockwise. At first, nothing came out. But then the most grotesque of solutions of human hair and mud, and old lint from a carpet and menstrual blood and fingernails and cigarette butts and dry skin and spit and guts came flooding out into my cup. I attempted to screw the handle anti-clockwise and turn it off, but it wouldn't budge, and the sink was now overflowing. Out of the tap came childhood drawings thrown away, the bones of missing pets, the list of things I was supposed to do that day, the names I can't forget, flying out of the faucet in an almost accusatory way. This compound of obscenities has made its way up to my shin. Death is smeared everywhere. The pure texture against my skin is enough to retch. I reach for the phone and call a plumber and tell them there is something wrong with the tap. By the time the plumber arrives, I am submerged and I cannot even spit it out. It is above my eyes. I am floating or drowning. Okie dokie. I will end it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. So like I say, check out the work that Punk for the Homeless is doing. It's like just an incredible cause. So please donate if you can. Check out my page. Mostly look after yourselves in this really horrible time and look after other people. Thank you very much.